It's funny how the same so-called gentlemen who visit brothels frequently, turn to honest and responsible family men during daytime. What about the women who live there? Why are they there? How do they look? How do they talk? Would they be safe? What kind of issues are faced when dealing with customers? Also, we are wondering if there are women who also pay for female sex workers in India. Do they always use protection, condoms? Most of them come from poverty. When get married, their husband were an irregular earner, and even when they did, they spend most of it in their drinks. Marriage is supposed to be showered upon a woman like blessings, but to them it came like a shock. They were used to poverty, maltreatments from family members. But being sexually abused was something new which started taking place in them. The girls are kept plump and beautiful in their cages like chickens being factory farmed. Men here will pay more for younger girls. That is why they are hidden away. If girls ever complained about the abuse, she would be beaten, tied up, or even starved of food. Because they have been psychologically manipulated into a sense of loyalty or love. Girls would be earning thousands of rupees every night, but they never got any of the money. In the daytime they had to babysit some of the younger girls. So she never really slept properly. Box cage. There will be several caged rooms and boxes. When they were first trafficked to the red light district, were kept them in cage for many days, months, even years together. All the lower middle and above girls are aware of STDs. Some do not know the details, but they surely know it is life-threatening. The lower-end girls are the most vulnerable and they are the maximum in number. The ones near bus stands and railway stations. These girls agree to get involved in the act without protection for a few extra rupees. Their financial situation is so bad that they risk their lives just for the little more money that they get. So the lower middle and higher girls ensure that protection is used no matter what. Else they do not proceed. It's funny how the same so-called gentlemen who visit brothels frequently, turn to honest and responsible family men during daytime. It's amazing how parents advise their children not to mix up or play with sex workers' children in schools, at playgrounds. It's worth noticing how people look at them in public transports. Yes, it gives them a good feeling, for the fact that they were better as human beings than a lot many. For the fact that they won't let children grow up as mean-minded personalities who can't help but can only hurt. Prostitutes' life, their beauty, their intelligence, their future, and their hopes have been stolen. It's more than bleak. It's evil, and it's not just ones. This story could be told by millions. All of them are brilliant actors. They make the man feel like he is the most handsome guy on the planet and try to satisfy him as much as possible, hoping to get tipped by him while leaving. And she does this even when the guy is fat, dirty, not even close to good looking, etc. These prostitutes are hated, disrespected, and often made fun of. When society criticize a woman for her rotten character, society compare her with these. How many of you know that many of prostitutes treat their ill and aged parents with the money they earn? They send money and the money is accepted. But they aren't allowed to show up in front of their family members. How many of you know that many of prostitutes regularly donate money to various organizations who look after slum children? And many of people don't even know why they are trapped here. It is never their own choice. You cannot see these very young girls. They are kept out of public view on the streets, but they are there. Sometimes the police carry out raids in the red light district, but this still carries on. We think they turn a blind eye. It is totally corrupt. In India, just as in Britain, it is a very serious offense to have sex with a juvenile, but they choose to do nothing about it. One Indian child rights organization says 40% of prostitutes inside the country are of school age. Child prostitution is growing. It's a big money-making business and they allow it to happen. None of them are thinking about the effect on a girl's life. With 192 million people in its lowest tier of society, cruelly named the untouchables, immense poverty, and a staggering lack of education, India is a perfect breeding ground for human trafficking. An estimated 14 million people are in slavery in India. This is not acceptable. While there's no doubt that money is the primary reason for the women becoming prostitutes, it is very surprising that sexual motivation ranks so highly. The entire sex industry is motivated by one thing, and that's money. Either the prostitute is at the low end and needs to feed her kids, or at the high end and simply wants to have the cash to buy nice things, but the truth is if there was another option to make the money they needed without having to sell their body, they would do it in a heartbeat. These high-end escorts are never available directly. They do not have pimps but have agents. They work discreetly, mostly from premium hotels in the city or resorts/service apartments on the outskirts. These days they stay at the most unexpected place. You get their contact only through someone who has used her service or who's been into using such services. The agent quotes the price, hourly or for the night, depending on the escort's preference. Then negotiation happens. If agreed by all parties, then they proceed.
One major issue is getting turned on. If she's is not good at acting, all that you'd get is a living dead body. Customers sometimes take the girl to their place and the girl finds that there are a whole lot of men than mentioned earlier. In that case the girl is helpless and tortured. Drunk customers behave like the girl is an object. Ask her to dance naked, perform the act, dance, perform, and the entire cycle goes on till morning and the girl is literally dead. If she opposes, then she is beaten and physically assaulted. And more men are asked to come and she gets raped in the name of prostitution. Sometimes the number can go up to 12 to 15 men in a single night. Some girls carry pepper spray, knives and sickles in their bags to avoid such cases. There are a few women who apparently earn large amounts of money in prostitution. These women are in an extreme minority. They also pay pimps inside and outside the brothels. They are not free to come and go as they wish. Women in prostitution must continually lie about their lives, their bodies, and their sexual responses. Lying is part of the job definition when the customer asks, "Did you enjoy it?" The very edifice of prostitution is built on the lie that women like it. Some prostitution survivors have stated that it took them years after leaving prostitution to acknowledge that prostitution wasn't a free choice because they had to lie to themselves in order to survive. Money is cited by 85% of the prostitutes. Some have to pay for housing, food and daycare for their children, others must pay for their drug abuse, while others want an extra week's holiday abroad. Even though prostitution industry is illegal in India, there are places in the country where women even today are largely dependent on it for their livelihood. These are the some famous places in India where large number of prostitution industry are there. Kamathapura, Mumbai. This place in Mumbai no longer exists by its actual name and is quite famous for brothels and is now popular as Red Street of Bombay. The area boasts of being the second largest red light areas, RLA, of Asia. Undoubtedly, the area is one of the most dangerous places in the financial capital where the crime rate is not likely to come down ever. Well, is that how we really tag Mumbai as the city of dreams? Wadia, Gujarat. The women in this area, ever since the older times, have been popular for supporting their families through prostitution, while men here actually find customers for the ladies. In accurate words, the men in this town are pimps and the culture has been existing for centuries, because of which it is difficult to even put an end to it. Education drives and mass weddings have left a small effect but the practice at large is being followed illegally. Shivdaspa, Varanasi. Varanasi since ancient times is famous for brothels and the elegant dansos, what we call it as a waif culture. Some Bollywood movies too have shown the darker side of the culture but a similar situation still persists and at a more atrocious scale. Varanasi railway station is one of the biggest red light areas of Uttar Pradesh. Several NGOs too are established in and around the area that helps in saving kids from getting into prostitution. GB Road, Delhi. Irrespective of your gender, Garsti Bastion Road, popularly known as GB Road, is another commercial center of the national capital where one can find old multi-storied buildings adjacent to each other where the ground floor act as regular shops while the rest of the floors as brothels. This is the area where girls and minors from the entire country are sold. At Purwa, Uttar Pradesh. A small village in Uttar Pradesh, at Purwa has a tradition belief of prostitution for 400 years now. This village of about 5,000 makes women dependent largely on prostitution for their income. The kids in this village, usually living with their mothers, hardly know who their fathers are. Even though some schools have been set up, the age-old tradition is still alive, majorly because of male lethargy. Devadasis concept Karateka. In a small section in Karateka, the concept of the Devadasis is followed even today, where a girl is dedicated to worship and service of a god or a temple for her pending life. Children, in an indirect way, are married to the goddess, after which they devote their lives to their religion. Their virginity is then auctioned off in the community. The girls spend their rest of the life as prostitutes who earn money for their families. In spite of being illegal, reports suggest that the practice still continues and is as awful as it sounds. Shogachi, Kolkata. Lastly, Shogachi is not only the most dangerous and dishonorable area, but it is also the largest red light areas of Asia. Located along the banks of the Ganges in North Kolkata, the region witnesses the highest crime rate in Kolkata. The Baiji culture, Tawaif culture, is still prevalent at the Premchand Boral lane or the Harkata lane. Apart from prostitution, the oldest RLA in Asia is also known for several criminal activities. A typical story, according to the researcher, is that a man divorces a woman and takes all the money, and the woman then sees prostitution as the only way to earn a living. Many surveys have been conducted to find out the extent of child prostitution. Survey team paper on perspectives and positional problems of social intervention shows that 70% of women are forced into prostitution and 20% of these are child prostitutes. Statistics of the survey done show. City population, prostitute population: Bombay 10,100,000, Calcutta 9,100,000, Delhi 7,040,000, Agra 3,040,000. A survey conducted by IHO of a red light area of Bombay shows. Conclusions. While no one has the right to sell another person, and it is the right of an individual to decide if they want to carry out a task either for free, for money, for favor or for personal satisfaction, therefore it is the right of a person, should they so wish, to sell themselves or at some aspect thereof for an agreed upon price and for a set length of time. It is impossible to sell anything without someone else buying it, therefore should a person choose to sell or rent themselves to another person, surely that other person is permitted to make a purchase.